Signals in the deep, markets never sleep. Whales move silent, but we speak. On-chain truth, no disguise. This is Leviathan, open your eyes.
And GM fam, today is July 25th, the first day of the rest of our lives, and I hope for your sake it's your best one yet. We're going to have a lot of fun on today's Llama Party because I'm trying to shake up the format a little bit, keep us current. TikTok's really big with the kids, so we got to make these much better for the Gen Z, Gen Alpha. But no, more seriously, typically in Llama parties, we'll bring some people on, usually from the Curve community, and talk with them about what they're building, which is cool. But I want to there's a lot of things I'm trying to do with the Llama Party. And one of the things that was really fun when we first launched these live streams was we just got fun people on and chatted about the headlines. And because we have such an amazing headline submitted by the community at Leviathan, I'm trying to get back to those roots a little bit. And Rex, you were there from almost day one, helping us do so. I've also sent out the invite to anyone. If you'd like to come join the party, please do hit us up in the comments. We'll send you the link. And as long as you come on and are adding to the vibe, come on in. The party's open. But Mr. Rex, for those who haven't been watching, what's going on with you? Who are you? What have you been up to lately?
Who am I? I am just a crypto enthusiast. Ethereum maxi. I was even willing to say that over the last 3 years when that was a laughable thing, but these days it's quite in vogue. So no, man, I'm just a big believer in what we're doing in this industry and what we're doing here at Leviathan, and excited to be going back to just talking about the news. And by the way, this is the first time I've been on since the new theme song, which is very cool and very funny, and just damn, man, we've come a long way.
100%. Well, let's go ahead and dive into it. So we're going to pop over to leviathannews.xyz and pull some of the top headlines. Just a quick note. We want to give a big shout out to Bold from Yearn. So if you are interested in maximizing Bold, which is of course the Liquidity stablecoin, Yearn, of course, Total Chad devs, they've already built a wrapper for it. It's got a ton of amazing features, auto compounding liquidation rewards, smart allocation across stability pools, no withdrawal fees, one-to-one redeemable anytime, and fully composable DeFi primitive. So check it out. And in fact, we're going to make it even easier for you to check out because I'm just going to drop a QR code right in the corner there. If you point your phone at that QR code, you'll be heading to Bold. You'll get all the scoop. And if for some reason you don't like it, if you don't like Bold and you would like to instead hijack this QR code, we'd encourage you just to head over to the auction page of our website, where for just $20 you could purchase the QR code and point it to whatever you like. The auction is going to expire in just 24 minutes. So we'll see. Maybe it'll get some fantastic bidding action while we're live on stream here. But other than that, we want to shout out a bunch of headlines. And if you want to submit headlines yourself, you can also do that. And in doing so, you can in fact earn some squid for doing so. So check that out on the website as well. First headline we wanted to talk about was posted by JL John, and this is very suitable for an Ethereum maximalist like Rex and myself. Ethereum ETF daily inflows overtook BTC inflows for the first time since the ETFs actually came into being. Rex, can you talk us through what's going on here?
I mean, I don't know if I particularly know what's going on, other than I feel for the first time, honestly, for the first time I've been in this industry, I feel Ethereum is starting to get the look that it deserves. And, I have a lot of respect for Bitcoin. That is the genesis moment for what we're trying to do here. And that was the first moment in which we realized this fundamental technology of cryptography, which was previously just thought to be something that is used for encryption and making messages secret, and honestly, just encryption was something that was valuable outside of making things private, but could serve as the basis for you know, again, currency, right? Whatever that means, but really verifiable compute. And like Bitcoin, I like to say Bitcoin was the promise, but Ethereum was the answer, right? Like Bitcoin is like a cool proof of concept, but like honestly, like it's so limited functionally. It has so many problems in terms of like how issuance is going to work. Eventually that's going to run out. Like there's no fees, so like once there's no issuance, like how is the network going to work? Like just the fact that like the concept behind Bitcoin is like let's burn as much energy as possible, like let's literally waste as much energy as possible, and let's do it with these like incredibly specialized and otherwise completely useless pieces of hardware. Like I can keep going on, and like Bitcoin, again, I have respect, but I don't really get it, at least in 2025. And so for the first time, I feel like, if not the entire market, like large portions and serious players are starting to wake up to that fact. And, you know, Garrett, I think you deserve like so much credit for seeing ahead of the curve, if you will, and understanding that, you know, the driving force that's going to be pushing people to that realization is stablecoins. And like that was, you know, is like an easy thing to say for a while, then like kind of a hard thing to say for a while, especially during meme coin season and like Solana season. But you know, in the last like 2 or 3 weeks since it's become like the law, it's just like it is so beyond clear that stablecoins are here to like provide the first real use case outside of just rampant speculation for crypto. And you know, I think that's what we're seeing reflected in, yes, like ETF inflows, but also just like ETH versus BTC trading, like volumes. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's the moment we're in.
Yeah, it's also interesting for me to see, you know, first of all, like all these companies adding Bitcoin to the balance sheets, and all these nations even like starting to like dabble with Bitcoin, because like I share your take on it. Like Bitcoin got me into the rabbit hole, and it seemed cool, but then it didn't like ever like do anything,
Yeah.
other than just kind of sit there. And it's like stunning for me to see like nonetheless, like it's like fulfilling this like weird use case of people just buying it and holding it and looking at it. And meanwhile, like Ethereum is doing all these amazing things. And especially like you know, we saw crypto people kind of all celebrating the Genius Act getting passed, as you mentioned, and the stable coins becoming the law of the land. I don't follow the Bitcoin community close enough to know anymore. Maybe you've popped into that like weird rabbit hole to see like were they celebrating that? Because I don't actually know if there's any meaningful amount of Bitcoin stable coins. Is that like a concept?
Yeah,
Is like does Bitcoin in any way
I
benefit from
don't
that?
think so. And like, you know, it's kind of died down a little bit, but for like, especially like 2023, 2024, there was so much noise around things like Bitcoin L2s and DeFi on Bitcoins, and even like ordinals or runes, or, you know, I don't even know which one's like a brand and which one is a technology. And, you know, I appreciated the idea that some people felt that it was time to upgrade the Bitcoin network to support more expressive compute, and like through that be able to um, just become more than like digital gold, whatever that means. But you know, I think it's frankly too late. You know, like the whatever value Bitcoin has is like really centered around the fact that it is like largely immutable and like largely centered on like the mimetic value of digital gold. And, you know, I think that'll work for now. And maybe it like works in perpetuity. I mean, gold's worked in perpetuity, but like, you know, if you think about it, like it's like a yellow shiny rock that was like meaningful at a time when we were like essentially monkeys. And like over more like as we become more sophisticated and there's more and more technology and like more things happen in the real world, like gold is just less and less relevant. And I think that we're going to see that in Bitcoin. I just think it's going to happen a lot faster. And like, do I think Bitcoin's going to zero? No. Do I think Bitcoin is going away? No. But like, I think the destiny of Bitcoin is like, frankly, to be an ERC20 on Ethereum.
Yeah, to me, the promise that Bitcoin always held was that it was programmable money. Like that's the kind of like aha moment for me. Like the idea of it being like some amount of digital scarcity is cool, and I give Bitcoin credit for for a few things. Like I think one of the things that they've done a good job of is kind of being very resistant to any changes, which I actually think is kind of something people want. Like the fact that like it's a 21 million hard cap, the fact that they're like extremely reluctant to make any upgrades, and like it has to go through like a lot of
politics,
a lot of kind of like politics exactly to get anything through. Like I think that helps a lot of people like digest the mission, whereas I think like Ethereum's constant upgrades, like if you're not down the rabbit hole like us and you don't know what's going on with Ethereum's like Pectra upgrade and like the merge and all that, like you might still be like maybe you saw a CNBC segment like 5 years ago, and that's your knowledge of Ethereum and how it works. So like it's great for us who like to keep track of these things. I think it's the people who like just want to have like who don't know how to operate their toaster, like to know the intricacies of how these things work. Like, okay, like I understand that like having like a starter blockchain in Bitcoin is kind of a good thing. But like beyond that, like I didn't really like take that next step into becoming programmable money. And I think like I don't assign like the kind of speculative premium that it has. Like, so right now there's like these rash of companies and like rash of ETFs. And then what's the game after that? Like once all these like people accumulate a lot of Bitcoin and we're going to go into a bear market again and the value starts cratering, like what next? Like some are at least half of them will probably like just like sell it off, and we're not going to see another like hype accumulation cycle. It's not going to be useful for anything because there's not any programmatic like capabilities of it. Meanwhile, Ethereum is already there. Like Ethereum already has like applications being built on it, and I'd like to think that's why like we're seeing the ETF inflows, but I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, and I think another thing like kind of worth talking about, which I see it enough in my like smaller like in group chats and whatever that I'm not going to say like this is not talked about, but like it never really shows up on Twitter or like CNBC, but like Bitcoin has a real like centralization problem that's like becoming more and more obvious. I mean, Michael Saylor, who like, let's be real, like who is this? Like he's just like kind of a nut who had a failing tech consulting company and like kind of, realized the narrative early and like got in and is like really hyped it up. But like he already owns like what 5% of all Bitcoin. And like I don't know, like you extrapolate outwards where like let's say Bitcoin is somehow like the global reserve asset. Like are we really saying like it's possible to have a healthy anything where 5% of global money is controlled by like any one guy, but then like Michael Saylor? Like I think that's becoming like a more and more important problem that like not only is not being dealt with, but like is being exacerbated. I mean, like the more successful Michael Saylor is, like the more he's going to capture. And like, I see that as like kind of, at least for what remains of this cycle, right? But like is only accelerating.
Yeah. What is your take on the ETF inflows, by the way? Like here is, the Ethereum Ubermensch and Anthony Sassal is like basically like on a daily basis tweeting inflows, right? And pointing out that like we're seeing net new ETH issuance today was 2,524 ETH, but 63,000 got pulled into ETFs. Like this is like really like happened out of nowhere. And there's been more talk of Ethereum treasury companies. Are companies like actually like buying Ethereum to put it on their balance sheets? Are they buying it because they need to like have a lot of Ethereum on hand so they can do like settlements on mainnet? Like, what's your take on what's going on here?
I think for like better or worse, anything that's happening right now is happening in the exact same vein as like the Bitcoin stuff, which is like, you know, yeah, pure speculation and just like a mad scramble for, you know, this is like gold rush stuff. And like I'm a bag holder, so I like to see it. But like I don't really see what's happening now as particularly like, I mean, I don't think it's bad, right? But I don't think it's like good for Ethereum, the verifiable compute network that like right now is used for DeFi and stablecoins, and in the future could be used for a lot more. Like there, it is so hard for me to believe that any single ETH treasury company is buying even one ETH to have like a stockpile for, you know, like because they need it to use for gas in the future because of like the applications they're building on top, right? Like that's just not happening. Like what's happening now is everyone kind of like realized what was unlocked with the Genius Act, realized that, okay, like, you know, there's like a clear path forward for banks, like real, like globally important banks to start issuing stable coins on Ethereum. Like that should drive up the price of ETH, and like people are trying to front run it. And again, as a bag holder, I'm happy. And I think like, you know, like again, for better, for worse, like what this industry does is like cycle super exuberantly and then crash back down. And I think we're seeing the like ingredients come together for that like hockey stick moment for this cycle. But I don't really think it's real.
Do you think that normies have even made the connection that like the Genius Act means Ethereum? Or like if you ask the random person on the street, like and ask them what they know about the Genius Act, would they just say it's like a Bitcoin thing?
I think if you ask someone on the street, they'd have no idea what Genius Act is. I mean, I think that if you know what a stable coin is, you probably know enough to know. I don't know. I mean, look, I struggle with this every day still, where if like I meet someone who doesn't know anything about crypto and I say I work in crypto and they're like, oh, like tell me about that. And I don't even know what to say or like where to start, you know, like how do you explain to Ethereum to someone who just like isn't living and breathing in these ideas? You know, it's
I have no. Well, let's move on.
yeah.
The top buzzing story over the past 24 hours on Leviathan News was submitted by Mr. Rex right here. And it's not one that I actually know a lot about. So I'm very curious to hear you explain this. Basically, the headline says Polychain completes one of the most epic VC scams in history, netting over $300 million on $20 million invested in TIA. What's happening here?
Okay, so I just sent you a link. Why don't you pull that one up? But the long story short is like, so for a lot of these, you know, like newer generation crypto like VC projects, essentially what they do, like for all good VCs, right, is like you make like an investment and then you get tokens and then your tokens are locked, right? But like the new meta is you make an investment, you get your tokens are locked, but you're allowed to stake those tokens. And the rewards that come out of your staking, those are not locked. And so people have been tracking wallets. I believe this tweet is from July 2nd. You know, like pretty recent, but maybe like the numbers aren't quite right. But like this guy has tracked that since Polychain invested in TIA. I believe they invested $20 million. They got their TIA, they've been staking it. And between Genesis and July 2nd, they had sold $242 million of rewards, right? So that's what, if my math is correct, 12x. They got a 12x return on their locked tokens. I mean, that is like, that's a scam. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, that's a scam. But that's not the end of the story. That's July 2nd. So if you'll pull back to the message that, the story that came out yesterday, that Celestia just kind of announced out of the blue that I'll just read the tweet. The Celestia Foundation has worked with Polychain Capital to assign Polychain's entire remaining TIA holdings to new investor. This month, the foundation purchased 43 million TIA from Polychain Capital for 62 million. Polychain will shortly be undelegating their entire stake TIA holdings in order to settle this transaction. And then blah, blah, blah. So are you kidding me, man? Like, not only were they able to like extract out 250 million when they're supposed to be like locked in whatever, they're still locked tokens, locked. They just sold. They sold for another 3x, right? So like, this is the most unbelievable like VC return ever. And I guess like, don't hate the player, hate the game. Like, if this is how things work, like you can't really be mad at Polychain for just like, you know, hitting a home run. But like, this is disgusting. And like, shame on Celestia for like allowing this kind of deal. Like, honestly, shame on Polychain for like just being so nakedly greedy. And just, again, like when you say they sold 250 million, right? Like, there's people on the other side of that like believed in the narrative that Celestia was putting out, that believed in like what Olaf was saying on the founder and at least still very important at Polychain, was saying on podcasts. Like, man, much to my embarrassment, I used to be on a Celestia podcast and I interviewed Olaf, and he was saying out there, like, I believe in Celestia, like this is the real technology and all this. And in the meantime, they're just like dumping on retail, like dumping on the people that we were like selling on the vision. And then to just like walk away with this by getting like an extra $62 million payday again on tokens that are supposed to be locked, meaning like you're not able to sell them. That's what locked means. It's just like, I don't know, man. It makes me not really want to be in this industry.
Yeah, understood. I mean, I don't have anything to add on this, unfortunately, because I have not really gone into the Celestia verse. I have not like gone much outside of Ethereum, to be honest. So like I'm not surprised, I guess. But I am disappointed.
Yeah, and like, you know, I think this is like a really dirty thing that happens. You know, I think like a lot of these networks, like we're picking on Celestia, but like it's really common. What they do is they say like, yeah, well, like we're super decentralized. Like, look how many node operators we have, and you know, like they can point to like, you know, 200 or something, and like some of them are like really big names, like you know, like Chorus One or P2P or like even like Blockworks, right? And then they get like these huge token grants. Like Celestia will give these companies tokens to be validators, and then they're able to sell their rewards too. So like, is that decentralization? If I literally like gave you all of your stake and then like am paying you to run the node, like that's not decentralization. That's theater. That is that, like, you know, my most cynical take on this industry. The reason I'm on Ethereum, Maxi, is because like I think that Ethereum is a network that's like striving towards credible neutrality and like trying to create something that's not owned by anyone. And even though it doesn't feel good, right, that like North Korea can use it, right, like the like Russians can use it, the Iranians can use it, like because it is credibly neutral and it's not like subject to the whims of like more and more erratic politicians, right? But like everything else, man, it's like it's essentially like, well, we'd like to create financial applications, but like it's illegal to just run a casino on AWS. So like instead of doing that, like let's just like create a little bit of theater so we can call it decentralized. And then like suddenly it's like okay to make unregulated banks and unregulated casinos and unregulated lending companies and all this stuff. And I don't know. I don't know.
Well said. Well said. Well, yeah, definitely share the frustrations, but let's move on to something a bit more optimistic. You talked about Ethereum, and you talked about being a maximalist, and you know who agrees with you is the fifth bearer of the Ethereum torch, which was none other than Curve founder Michael Egorov. So Ethereum has been doing this thing. I'm assuming it's part of like the Ethereum marketing, in which they kind of have this Ethereum torch, which they're passing along to different people to celebrate the 10-year anniversary. And they picked Mr. Egorov, founder of Curve Finance, as one of them. So in doing so, he wrote this like very nice thread on X describing, his thoughts on Ethereum, like why he's like so excited about it. Of course, he mentions Curve. He mentions that like the use of financialization DeFi apps. He also talks about Viper language and like why he really likes Viper relative to Solidity. So if you're a dev, I would definitely recommend you check out what's going on with Viper. Big fan there. But overall, just like a really nice thing. So any thoughts on Mr. Egorov's thread? Any thoughts on this kind of Ethereum torch program that they're doing?
I really like it. I'm a big fan of, like, I don't know, this guy Jonathan Mann who like does a song every day.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
So like I check it every day, like songaday.world. And every single time he does a song that is like even remotely related to crypto, I either buy the Zora edition or I bid on it, because like I want crypto to like DeFi is great, like, and stablecoins are great, but like I want us to like use this for like more things that are just not like so nakedly financial. Like I'm so not bullish, but just like happy when I see things that when people use Ethereum for cultural things, or like, I mean, I'll use this term art, right? Like whatever that means after the NFT craze. But I really like the Torchbearer program. I think it's highlighting like really like definitely important people, for like people like you and me who are in this industry. I haven't seen a single person that like I didn't like already know and understand their contribution to, but like I think it's an incredible way to highlight these people, to maybe people that have like more of a life than we do. And like honestly, when I saw Michael was one of their torchbearers, that was like surprising to me and like very exciting to me, because I think that he is like one of the people that doesn't generally get the credit that he deserves. Like I just don't see his name thrown around as often as like a Joe Lubin or I don't know, pick like Justin Drake or that kind of thing. Like nothing against those guys, like amazing guys too, but I just think Michael deserves more credit than he gets. And so yeah, I mean, I love the concept. I'm definitely going to mint this like celebratory NFT that they're doing on the actual birthday, on the 30th. And also I've RSVP'd, but I'm still waiting for my confirmation for the birthday party in San Francisco. So all you Ethereum Foundation people that are watching this, like, please, like, let me come. I'll fly up there. Like, I want to go. But yeah, I think it's cool, and I'm excited for this birthday. And yeah, I'm excited when like the conversation around Ethereum is like about like wholesome cultural things and not just like scamminess or even non-scammy financial stuff.
Do you get the impression that this whole thing is because like a few months ago, people were calling out that Ethereum had bad marketing and all this stuff relative to all these other chains that were like, basically like splashing out serious money on marketing. And that's why they decided to like kind of like do like more of like this kind of like fun Ethereum native NFT effort to promote the birthday.
Maybe. And honestly, I don't even think that'd be a bad thing. Like, it's probably a good thing if like we see the foundation reacting to like what people are saying. But I don't know, like, to me this reminds me of like 2022 and the time around the merge, and like there's just energy, like people wanted to celebrate those moments and like wanted to mint POAPs and wanted to like have NFTs. And Like that's more like the vibe that I'm getting, but I don't know, maybe like there's like a little cabal sitting in like Zug or wherever the Ethereum Foundation is, and like, okay, like what can we sell to like hype people up?
How about the question of like, are NFTs back? Does this mean that like NFTs are like suddenly a thing again? Because I'm kind of the opinion that if we all just decide, like if we all like flip and say, okay, NFTs are a thing again, like they'll be a thing again.
I mean, maybe. I, with this industry, like it's impossible. Like the only way to guarantee something is like back is to like fade it, right? um, I did see I did see a tweet yesterday where someone was like, if you think the only marginal bid for NFTs are like treasury companies, like that's like doomed from the start, essentially, was the vibe. And I don't know, like the cynical part of me just thinks like, okay, people understand that the way the cycle works is first Bitcoin, then Ethereum, then alts, then like the really degenerate stuff, then crash. And just like we saw a lot of people like pouring all their energy into meme coins because they believed that like, okay, the cycle is here and I want to front run the cycle, so let me get into the most degenerate stuff, and like that therefore I'll get the most alpha. Like part of me is looking at all the any energy around NFTs right now is people saying like, okay, like Ethereum's starting its run, like let me get ahead of this. Like we know once Ethereum runs, like that's when CryptoPunks start to run, and like, oh look, like I can still buy CryptoPunks at depressed prices, so like let me just like sweep. But I don't know. I think the amount of money that went into NFT last cycle was completely dumb. I thought the art was completely dumb. The art was completely dumb. Like I thought it was a huge waste, but honestly, like I'm here for it because like I said, like I want to see like things that are just not nakedly about like financials and like numbers and spreadsheets on Ethereum. Like I want to see culture. I want to see like people using it for like fun and like identity and expression. And so if we have to see like a bunch of like fucking Starry Night funds or whatever stupid things come along this time, so be it.
Well, what's funny is like let's see if I can pull this tweet up while I'm talking here. But you know, as far as like what I think would be a really cool NFT collection, we were talking about Mr. Egorov. And he every now and then goes and posts these simulations that he runs, and I really think that he should just release these as like a NFT collection, because why not? Like he like these various like well, I mean, I can explain a bit about what they are. He'll run simulations of various like curve parameters, and he will on two axes kind of simulate over a range of values. And I think like he's posted so many of them, someone should just make an NFT collection of it, because you'd probably get me buying some. They're supposed to buy the When Llama NFT collection, which is itself a amazing NFT collection because they actually have a number of like cool things that they're building on top of their NFTs, like a whole hiring platform. It was the inspiration for the Leviathan auctions. So anyway, just some NFTception. Anyway, thanks for surfacing that story, Second Set Maze. And while we're on the subject of curve stuff, I submitted an article. Didn't do quite as well, but I'm hosting the podcast, so I can go ahead and promote my own stuff. There was a interesting like tete-a-tete between Fluid Dev, where he ripped the Curve community, saying that the Curve community was low IQ. So I had fun making this this graphic. I mostly just wanted to share this because I think it's kind of fun that the Curve logo turned sideways looks a bit like the bell curve meme, and that's me hanging out on the left side of it. It's my avatar. But like actually, just to get specific about what the Fluid Dev is saying here, it wasn't so it wasn't so much like the whole Curve community that they were blasting, but there's like this one one like Curve bull by the name of DeFi Moon that posts some like spicy takes sometimes and kind of courts the controversy. So it was mostly in response to that, because actually, like from what I've seen, most of the Curve devs have a lot of respect for what the Fluid team has built. It's a very cool kind of like and I'm not gonna like go through the mechanics of how it works, but it's like because I won't do it justice because I am left curve. But basically it's like it is like a combo AMM and lending market in one. So it's interesting stuff. And this is in response to like this incident a few weeks ago where there's like this massive depeg. And because the fluid kind of was more like UniV3 type concentrated liquidity, it went a bit out of range and it's kind of an issue. It actually like ties to like a semi-interested related story, which is the Lido WSTETH markets nearly suffered a depeg, but basically didn't because there was the curve pool with enough liquidity, V2 style pool. I'll try and pull the tweet up on that. But anyway, while I'm like rambling, I wanted to welcome DeFi Advisor, who like took it up. It's a Llama party. Anyone can join a Llama party is the concept I'm going with. And DeFi Advisor, thank you for taking us up on that. If you're interested in joining a Llama party, just shout out this in the chat and we will get the invite to you. So DeFi Advisor, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Nice to see the new format. What's up, guys? What's up, Rex? How are you?
Good. Living the dream.
Amen. And how's the stream so far? What have you been talking about?
We talked about some good stuff already. Mostly Ethereum maximalizing.
Wait, can we talk about this Lido depeg situation? So
yes.
I don't really understand what like this situation is. Like because there's this really what I didn't realize, but like super central connection between Aave, Justin Sun, and the Lido peg. And like and I guess so like my
Rex, aren't these the only three entities in crypto?
I mean, who even knows if it's three entities? But so like you guys let me know if you know anything different or if my understanding is wrong. But I guess like a huge portion of Lido, like of ST ETH, exists because people put in wrap staked ETH into Aave, then they borrow ETH, then they put that into Lido to have more wrap staked ETH, and then they just loop it up, and so you're getting leveraged yield returns. Then that's supported by Justin Sun having like literal one guy having billions of dollars in supplying ETH so that it can be borrowed. Then he just like, for whatever reason, maybe he's starting a treasury company. Maybe he's just like trying to grief Lido, maybe like whatever, right? But he pulls out all his ETH. That causes the borrow rate of ETH to go so high that you're actually losing money on this leverage trade. And then people pull out their wrap staked ETH and then jam it into the Lido withdrawal queue, which pushes it up to 11 days. Like what? What?
It's a good question. I don't know. I was trying to look for, there was a, like, on the subject of Lido, I saw that Lido's also, trying to find the story here. Lido's also, the way you describe it sounds like way more centralized than my impression is that it actually is. My impression is that Lido actually really cares strongly about this idea of like decentralization. And I saw that there's like actually a governance proposal that is going up on this very subject. And let me see if I can find that here. Yeah, here it is. And this is a story submitted by myself. So I knew I wasn't crazy. This is, there's a community staking module, which I believe had been capped at 2% of the overall TVL for Lido. And they're basically like started the vote 2 days ago to push us up to 3%, which is going to give more people who are like interested in permissionless access to Lido the capability of actually like doing some like Lido staking. But that being said, like that's still a fairly small number. So maybe it's possible that like Justin Sun is like massively like got a footprint on all this.
No, to be clear, like my whole story that I told like has nothing to do with Lido's like validator set. Like I think Justin Sun is like this centralized entity in the sense that he has just like a huge proportion of TVL and Aave, and by withdrawing that, it causes like Aave rates to change, which causes like individual users that are not associated with Lido, but just like using wrap staked ETH, like it changes their behavior. And like none of this has anything to do with how centralized or decentralized Lido is. I guess like what to me is just like more curious than I like really understood until you see these things play out is like how much of all of these things are like directly connected. Like when you look at you go to Dune and you say like, okay, these are LSTs, like what share does Lido have? Like it doesn't really occur to me that is like a dependent function on like what are the borrow and lend parameters in Aave.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm not even saying that's like not healthy or not, but it's just like I always kind of consider these things like different things, you know, like one is about ETH staking and how centralized that is and like which is the most safe and which has the highest return and all this stuff. And then there's like DeFi borrow and lending, and like that's just about like whatever, right? But like these things seem to be like very directly correlated.
Interesting. Yeah, good, very good take. Very good take. DeFi Advisor, unless there's anything you want to add, I will jump to what might be our last story.
No, actually, maybe I want to ask you guys. There was also a story a few days ago about BlackRock wanting to get a staked ETF, a staked ETH ETF approved, and people were talking about how it can actually destroy staking. Maybe you guys have heard of it, or can share some thoughts on it.
I did see the story about I think there was I think it was approved.
There was something on X. There was some discussion on X.
I mean, I think the discussion is that if I mean, like it all comes back to the conversation around minimal viable issuance, which is like essentially right now, like based on current stake, like the math of how the like staking formula works is that based on current stake, you get approximately like, I don't know, 3 to 4% yield on like your staked ETH. And then the question becomes like, look, like that 3 to 4% yield gets us, let's say like 30% of all ETH staked. Like that's great, but like, do we really need 30% of all ETH staked? Like maybe that's too much ETH and like we're essentially overpaying. And so like if we like kind of like do the math and we figure it out and we say like actually like what's the appropriate amount of ETH staked is 20%, let's reduce the issuance rate so that like the equilibrium is around 20%, and like that's just good for everyone because it means less inflation. And then like how that ties into the conversation around like staking ETFs is like that no matter what, staked ETH ETFs are just going to drive more ETH into staking, because like why would you hold ETH ETF when there's a staked ETH ETF? Like doesn't matter what it's paying. Like why would you get paid 0% when you can get paid any percent? And so if the question around minimal viable issuance just like happens sooner with staked ETH ETFs, because again, there's just going to be more ETH staked, and the thought is like, why are we paying so much for security that like doesn't even make sense? Like let's pay less. That makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. On the subject of BlackRock DeFi Advisor, this is a story that you posted. Maybe you could talk us through this a little bit. And this is about, where did it go? A very handsome milady, I guess, by the name of Joseph Chalom, has been announced as the co-CEO of SharpLink SPET after 20 years at BlackRock. What's the implications of this year's story, sir?
I don't know too much about it to share that many implications, but I saw Joseph Lubin. I think he's the chairman. He's considered the chairman of SharpLink Gaming. What that's called SBET, and if I understand it correctly, it's kind of like the Ethereum MicroStrategy or something like that. No, I think he really mostly intends on creating a very big buy pressure on Ethereum. He's already gotten a huge stack, and he posted about this. He shared this post by Joseph, who seems to be very much into TradFi. Quite a lot of time to work at a company like BlackRock. And looking for, I think there's a real feeling of like the audience and the community has kind of changed a bit. You really feel the institutional side coming in much more strongly than I don't know, a few years ago or even a few months or so. I think ever since Robinhood declared that they're building on Arbitrum, it seems like every institution is declaring something else every few hours.
Right on, right on. Well, thank you for submitting that. And as a reminder, anyone who submits stories to Leviathan News, of which we've seen both Rex and DeFi Advisor were successful submitters, is eligible to earn some squid. So I wanted to take the last actually 10 minutes or so because this is a Leviathan podcast to talk about some of the updates we got going on at Leviathan. And so, first of all, I just wanted to show off. This is a sneak preview of the website. So this is actually a website design that we're going to be pushing live Monday. Check out those handsome gentlemen live streaming is the current news story. One of the cool things we got going on the right-hand side here, you can see, is we are going to be pulling in some like live leaderboard stats to help communicate and help people to understand that we actually do have this squid token. We give out about up to 1 million of them per month for activities that bolster the Leviathan ecosystem. So far, we've done 29.5 million. That's been spread to over 1,300 contributors to Leviathan. We've published nearly 10,000 articles. So we'll probably be hitting that 10,000 mark sometime in the next month. And you can see the live leaderboard for the month. So Squidolic, OXPMM were the most active on the news side there. I came in number 3rd. And if you scroll down here, you can see Sir DeFi Advisor. Congrats, you're 4th with about 12,000. But I gotta say, your profile picture is looking a little Spartan there. I'd like to recommend that you spruce that up, because one of the things that we're going to announce on Monday when we push the new site live is we are planning a little campaign to give squid out to people who upload their profile picture to the website. So that could be you, sir.
Will do. Can you repeat the website address for the audience?
Yes, absolutely. So it's leviathannews.xyz. You can get there. Actually, you can't get there through the Squid Pass because it's going to go. That will go to Wybold. But leviathannews.xyz is going to be the home of that. And one of the things I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on, because really interested in this concept of building in public, is this proposal that I floated to both of you. By which, so pretty recently, we actually launched this concept of the Squid DAO, by which Squid holders get to vote each month on how these emissions are distributed.
Yeah, maybe, Garrett, maybe you even take a minute before that and show the snapshot and the inauguration vote, and we can kind of share with the audience the fact that we've actually did the first step in order to make a DAO out of Leviathan News. I think it was a very exciting step and a very meaningful one that we had recently. And Squid is officially a valueless governance token. That's pretty great.
Yeah, very much so. And thank you for suggesting I do that, because I feel like all these things happen in my head and I don't take the time to actually like discuss
Yeah, but
them.
I don't think
So if
we've
you're
ever
watching-
mentioned it. I don't think we've ever mentioned it like publicly.
Agreed.
But I actually
So
think that it's exactly the time to kind of present it and let people know that right now they can actually participate in governance in Squid DAO, which is the official owner right now of Leviathan News, as Garrett will explain. And come and join us and participate, guys. It's actually happening. It's quite cool.
Yeah, you could see the inaugural vote went off without a hitch. 100% voting in favor of Leviathan News incorporating as a DAO, which was a very big step. We talked about it for a long time, and we had a lot of ideas for how to get this off the ground. There's a lot of talk about should we, how do we actually just calculate the tokens that are eligible? So for the time being, if you have any Squid, that includes if you are LP'd as a LP in the Squid ETH pool on Fractal, or even the Squid Squill pool, and have reinvested that into Convex. We don't have StakeDAO support. StakeDAO actually just rolled out some Fractal support. We haven't yet gotten that one hooked up. But if you're in any of those other pools or even in Convex, you get voting power. So come take a look, because all of our monthly budget requests are going to go here. As mentioned, we basically do this thing where each month we give out 1 million Leviathan Squid tokens. We give it out to people who create content or help out with the ecosystem. And one of the things that I was thinking, I'm not sure if this will go in front of the, at some point it'll probably go in front of the DAO for a formal vote. But is this concept of like, instead of like deciding how we determine the allocation, before it had been kind of like fixed. And I wanted to move it to like more of a like true DAO type philosophy, where the people could put their voting weight almost like VECRV style behind the like initiatives that they think are like most beneficial to Squid. I called it Project Cuddle, and I will probably be using it for the news allocations, at least for August, maybe for the entire budget. Where basically like and I'll at some point like post this up to the blog so people can read it. But for now, you can like zoom in here on your YouTube stream. And we had I basically like sent this to some people to get feedback, and the feedback's been mostly positive. Some negative feedback, and some positive feedback, some questions, as you might think. There's a lot of like kind of provisions in here, because I'm trying to avoid this like idea that you could use this for governance attacks. So I have like some mitigation things in there, so you can't just like say like, hey, give me all the Squid because I'm awesome, and then buy a bunch of Squid and send it to yourself. But Rex, I think that you also had like some like questions and thoughts about this proposal. I thought this would be like a great format if you have a few minutes, like just discuss it live.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, first of all, it's like obviously an awesome proposal, and like you clearly put a lot of like thought and work into it. Just like quite frankly, like I'm bearish on DAOs, and I think that I think what I'm like particularly bearish on is any systems that like require active governance over time, because I just like don't really think it's sustainable. And so, if there's a few proposals out, so like forgive me if I'm like referencing the wrong one, but like the proposal where essentially like we emit tokens based on like voting, like for which like story was like the best or like most successful. I think like we can have conversations around like if that is like effective or not, because like, hey, are like the Squid token holders like really the arbiters on like what's the best article or like what's the most successful article? Like that's one conversation. But I think like more generally, like I'm worried about systems that like require active participation over time, because like even if we're really good at figuring out what's like the best story, like I'm not really sure that there's going to be like a lot of people that like show up to do that every month for like any real amount of time.
Right. No, it makes sense. That makes sense. Would you think that if the system is something like where there is like a quorum that like, I don't know, what you like in your like critiques of DAOs, is like 20% quorum too low of a quorum to be considered like enough goes through?
I think that I just happen to know like Lido like struggles to get like their quorum, and I think it's like 10% or something.
10%.
And it's like I mean I don't quote me on that. I actually don't remember, but I know that like in order to get like, especially not like headline like this is like a new product or like a new like huge thing that we're gonna like go on podcast and talk about, but just like kind of like the regular minutia, like it requires having people that are like, you know, full-time like paid contributors to like run around and whip votes to like ensure that like we reach the like quorum is reached. And so you know, I look like I think while like I think like the concept of DAOs are like interesting and I get where it comes from. I think like a little bit the concept of DAOs are like kind of spitting on the face that like we as like a human race have essentially spent like 2,000 years coming up with like the corporation as the most effective way to make things happen and get things done. And like we're kind of saying like, hey, everything that's good and like effective about that, like fuck it, like throw it out, and let's instead like try to do stuff by not only just like voting on everything, but like doing it in this way where like there really isn't an accountability. You don't even like you don't like break bread and like have real relationships with these people. Like they're just like, I mean, half the time you don't even know who they are. They're literally just faceless people like pushing buttons on Snapshot. And so you know, I like I'm all for this experiment, and like I think it's like really cool to like try out new things, but I just think it's like really hard to build something successful in this way.
Yeah. No, I hear the bearishness, and I do agree with you on certainly agree with you on certain points. Like I definitely think that corporations are generally a better structure for organizing
For, like,
people
companies,
than
yeah.
a DAO, right?
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's like just like incontrovertibly true, right? That like corporations exist for a reason. They've kind of conquered the world for a reason. Just to go back to a couple of your points, though, like the reason I was like asking this question about like quorum of like 10 or 20% or something like that is that I'd imagine that the Lido DAO that you're talking about is like a very different kind of character of DAO than we're talking about. So this is a snapshot, I think, from like a few weeks ago. So it might have changed a little bit. But you know, even though like Squid and Leviathan is like more decentralized now than it's ever been, you could still get to like a straight out majority with about like 7 or 8 or 9 people voting. Not like plurality, like full on majority. And what's nice on some level about the structure here is like we know who most of these people are. They're not like faceless anons. There's 1 or 2 fairly big holders that we haven't been able to identify yet. I think 1 voted in the last DAO vote. Otherwise, they've been inactive. But like these are like people that we know and can like actually like talk to. So if we were like just saying, even if you had like a higher like 20% quorum, or even 30% quorum, we could probably get there if like most of the key stakeholders kind of just cast their vote. So on some level,
I just think that was like, I think that was probably true in the first like 6 months of Lido, or the first 6 months of Aave, or the first 6 months of like all of these DAOs. You know, I think it's like easy when
over time it might.
Yeah, I think in this specific conversation, like success is your enemy here, right? Because like the more successful you are, the more like randos like buy in, and like that, like again, like you, like Garrett, you and I, like outside of the times we chat on stream, right? Like we talk all the time, like we've like met each other in person, like you and I know each other, like this will always like we'll always be able to like talk and like come to decisions and like, you know, like push a shared mission forward. But like the more like 0xAC35 like that just shows up, like the harder and harder that becomes.
Hate that guy 03.
Yeah. You know, and again, I think like you go back to the early days of like like Aave, right? And I think like they knew, like when there's 25 token holders, they knew 19 of them.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it's very, very good points. Very good points. I mean, one of the nice things is that, like, it is like you say, it's an experiment. So if we completely fail, it's reversible, right? Like we could
Yeah.
undo it just as quickly as we try it out. I definitely agree with the point that, like, I think, like, you know, corporations are better for a lot of things. Although I do think that, like, so within like the Squid universe, like the one thing that the DAO like incontrovertibly has access to is the on-chain functionalities that the permissions have been like vested to it given the rules of the Ethereum blockchain, right? So it has minting authority, and because of that, like I think on some level that like that's actually like a place where I might argue that a DAO has is like almost a better organizational structure than a corporation, because if there's a corporation that like you know, like there's all sorts like weird and wacky rules that get in place there, but like with if there's like massive disagreements in a corporation, you might need to go to court, you might need to go like litigation, it might take like 5 years of like insane lawyer fees to solve things. I think with the DAO, like if you and I like completely disagreed on how the budget should be done this upcoming month, like such to the point that like we hate each other, we get in like a Settlers of Catan style like fight, we're never willing to talk to each other again. Like many cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin before us and Ethereum, like there have been like severe disagreements, but like the chain is neutral. And as long as you have the procedures in place to like, you know, both of us hate each other, we both cast our vote, my weight cancels out your weight, and then like our like everything goes on. I actually think that like the DAO can be like a really efficient mechanism on this front for like the resolving disputes.
I actually want to add that I definitely disagree with Rex's perspective on this. I actually think that a DAO is basically the only complementary structure that can fit our vision of decentralized crypto media. Like if we try to run it as a corporation or a company, it will immediately lose the most basic element of the vision, which is gathering people who are unrelated to one another in creating crypto media together independently. So I actually think that we should have an opposite view of like a very optimistic and positive attitude towards it, because with this kind of structure, we can actually encourage new participants to be onboarded more easily and more smoothly. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy or that it's going to take time, but for the first time, I actually think that we have a chance to do it, other than choosing no structure, or if we would have taken like, I don't know, some kind of a company structure, it would have immediately lost the very essence of what it's here to do. And I will just add that, you know, there's a saying that I keep remembering by Peter Thiel, maybe you guys know it. Often when he's interviewed, he says that at the beginning of the book, Anna Karenina, there's a sentence saying that all happy families are alike, all miserable families are miserable in their own way. And in business, he says that it's actually the opposite. Like all failing businesses are alike, are the same. And all successful businesses are actually unique in their own way. And I actually think that this exactly like fits, this should like be our mindset going forward. And I actually think that like what separates us from other media outlets is our like decentralization ethos. And like I think that once that now we're creating the complementary structure for it, we actually have a chance to do something with it. So I am actually very optimistic and very excited about this direction. And it's Squid DAO now, guys. It's not only Leviathan News.
Mr. X, you want to issue counterpoint or?
I don't think that like I don't really think that it's like what I'm talking about is like how do you organize like essentially core contributors to like build the infrastructure to like run like to do like sales to like drive revenue, all this stuff, like I think is like a different conversation than how do you get like a decentralized group of people to contribute media or like contribute headlines. And like I'm not at all proposing like that I think it's like silly or dumb or whatever to like let's say like emit squid tokens to people who like provide like value to Leviathan by like posting articles or like joining podcasts or whatever. Like I think that's great. Like I think why not, right? And like that is a way, like that's what crypto is good for, is like incentivization. But I think like the last like 3 or 4 years, however long we've been doing this, shows that you know our ability to like make decisions and move quickly and like take advantage of opportunity and just like build consistency like is not at the level of I just like want to be like a little pedantic about like the difference between a corporation and a company, right? Like with the company being the more general one. Like I don't know if corporation's the right structure. Like maybe it's like a partnership or like a LLC or like whatever, right? But I just think like that is kind of what it takes to like grow into an institution, and like it requires like strong like leadership and vision, and sometimes that vision is not something that is like agreed to by everyone through consensus and through voting, but like it doesn't matter, you do it anyway because like you need to move forward and you need to not just get like wrapped around the axle of like voting around stuff. And so look, like there's nothing like a DAO. This is not a new concept, right? Like a DAO is just like you take a shareholder agreement and like you throw away security laws, and like that's now you have a DAO. And so like I think like the way to find success in crypto native companies is to like just lean into that analogy and into that model and say like, okay, we have a DAO. The DAO controls a treasury or whatever, right? Like the DAO has like some voting power over something, and it should enable a centralized company to like enact on its behalf, right? In the same way that there's like the Aave DAO, and that like there people that vote on it, but like essentially what they're doing is empowering like Aave Labs, right? I don't know if I'm getting the entities quite right, but like they're enabling Aave Labs to like develop this protocol on its behalf, right? Or maybe like well, Swiss Stake and Curve is like a little bit of a different story, right? But I just
a pretty good analog in a lot of ways. Like there's the Curve DAO that sits there and controls emissions, and then there's like Swiss Stake and some other like random like centralized companies that interact with the DAO. Like Llama Risk would be one, and Swiss Stake. Swiss Stake got a grant from the Curve DAO for the like operations they performed. So it's like a best of both worlds situation where the like Swiss Stake can like be centralized and have like a CEO and a structure and stand up meetings and figure out how to maximize revenues. And the DAO can say, if we like, we'll send some of the treasury that we control towards it. And I think I think Leviathan could do very well with this kind of model where like there's like this like mechanism by which the DAO figures out the like best way to like manage the wisdom of the crowds and to divert squid towards the entities that are doing the best work on its behalf. And it'll probably be a lot of entities that like are organized like companies and like have this like aspects of like we're centralized, we can move fast. But like this particular entity has like it's like like a corporate structure and exists to try and like receive these emissions from the DAO by doing good work for like the squid token. That's my take. Maybe I'm naive. I'm probably naive.
No, I don't. I mean, naive or not, I don't. I mean, I think we're all just like trying to figure this out in real time. But I just like, to me, it's as like simple as like the more like work experience I get in DAOs, the more like I realize how dysfunctional it is, and like how, of course, there's so much to hate about how companies work, right? Like, of course, but like the more you see what the alternatives are, like the more you appreciate like what kind of really works in the systems that we have.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I think like there's a reason like why we haven't been able to like pull together like consistent schedules on podcasting, or like really been able to sell ads like on a like sustained like growing basis, or we haven't been able to like really like attract or like find grants, or like really like drive like new initiatives past like kind of what we've been doing here, which is like great, but it's like the core thing that we came up with 3 years ago. And so
I think it's the opposite, though.
okay.
I think it's. I think that's what's limiting us. We're trying to coordinate stuff that don't really need coordination. They need decentralization. Instead of trying to force everyone into a specific way or structure, or even a specific sponsorship, we can just decentralize the process. And then, for example, Rex, if you want to start a new weekly show about something, and you're in touch with, I don't know, a specific project, and they really like your specific idea, and they want to support it. So you can actually close a deal yourself with them, get most of the payment yourself. Some of the money can go to Leviathan News as, I don't know, like a tariff, or however you want to call it. But then, okay, now you're, as a content creator, you're incentivized to go close a deal, like act on your own. You don't need any like explaining. You don't need any permission. You don't need anything. You do your own show. And you're also rewarded for it, not only with the deal that you've made for your sponsorship, but also with governance rights from Squid DAO, because people appreciate your content. Same for me. If I have a specific project, they want to work specifically with me. Cool. Someone else likes Garrett's show, someone else likes Sam's show, or whatever other show. We can actually, this way now, in my opinion, unleash our potential rather than try, just like you said, whatever we were trying to do on many levels. Like, we had some nice successes on some specific aspects of what we tried to do. Like, I actually think that Leviathan News is something important, and I'm very happy we did it. But like, I agree, a lot of the stuff that we were trying to do, especially about, I don't know, actually like generating any kind of revenue or income from it, like, we were very much not successful from it. But I actually think that it actually means that we should try a very different approach rather than other versions of the same thing we were trying up to now. Because actually, you know, even when it's like, you know, just 5 or 6 or 8 people, it's very hard to agree on things. Really, like, people are different. People want to do different stuff. People have different opinions and ideas. And it's very, like, if someone has a new idea and their new idea is very quickly, like, you know, cooled off, and then like it takes the energy out of this person in a way, and it makes him not as like into doing you know, new initiatives again. So I actually think that in a way it can like really free people to create and do some interesting stuff. And it also, in my opinion, unleashes everyone's like individual potential to actually profit from it. So I've been talking about it with Garrett like the past week or so. I actually think that this is by far like, this is definitely the direction that we should go, and I also think it's the most natural direction, to be honest. And most importantly, I think it's different, and we have to try something different.
Well, the Llama Party format is a success in that we've got a 4th party attendee in the form of Sam. And Sam, I believe, is probably the most opposed to this direction. So it's perfect timing for you to come in. Sam, we were talking about Project Cuddle.
Yeah. Look, hey guys, how's it going? I'm not like opposed to it. I just think that there's a lot of like contradictions that appear when you're trying to set up this idea of having like because the media company and like the news thing is mostly off chain, right? There's a website, there's an owner for everything, and split the needle between the two on a lot of things, right? Rex was talking about people, especially if you have like media talent, or if you have all this other stuff, it has to be done through like a off-chain entity, because you have to sign contracts. You know, there's got to be a lot of legal stuff that protects the copyrights and like brand and all these things. And really, I don't know if there's a clear path to having like equity ownership, which is the real controller of those assets, and connecting that into the debt, right? And so, like, I think it's interesting to have like incentivization systems. That's really cool. But at the same time, from like an operational perspective, it's difficult at the end of the day because you don't know who's showing up, right? Like, people just without like strong contracts, people just come, they'll work for a bit, and then they'll kind of bounce, which is not the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like, DeFi advisor, you like, you know, kind of spelled out this vision of like, okay, like let's say I have an idea for a show, and like I can go create the show, and maybe like if there's money involved, like I capture most of the money, but maybe some of the money goes to Leviathan. Like, I guess my question is like, in today's model, like if I can go capture a show and like capture revenue, why would I not just do that myself? Like, why would I associate it with Leviathan?
Because you have because you like with you specifically, mostly because we already have some kind of an audience instead of you now building it. Like, of course, if a creator, and most creators in the world, they already do it, they create on their own, like cool. But when we started Leviathan, we wanted to form some kind of a collective of creators, just like it actually happens with news curation. And I actually think that exactly the same model in a way can work best if we adapt it to the content side. And by the way, just an example, Rex, you're not only great as a podcaster, you're also great as a writer. Like when I started following you, it was with your threads way back then in the Twitter days. You're a great writer. You can decide that you want to do like articles and submit your content like, I don't know, one article a week, one article a month, one article whenever about stuff that you want to do. And that's like your content, and then you will be rewarded like specifically for this content. And by the way, if you close a deal with someone for articles, that's great, because you can use Leviathan News as a platform. And if a creator wants to work independently, great, like I'm not against it. Everyone can do it. But I think that there are people out there that I do think that Leviathan can be a good stage for them to start. And,
Right. And I think our goal should be to make Leviathan the best stage possible. And what that means is growing the audience, but like, love you guys that are watching, but like, I'm not even really sure you exist outside of the three of us that are on this stream right now. Like, so we want to grow the audience. We want to like provide services like producing, like, you know, like editing, like all these things that make it.
We need money.
What?
But we need money for it, right?
Exactly, and that's why I think Sam and I are both talking about like what makes sense, at least like in my experience, is to have an entity that can provide these services.
But
Right.
but in this case, it will be on you to do it, because we don't have any revenue yet, and we are not going to fund it out of governance rights, of a valueless governance token, or out of a treasury with no assets that we have. So right now, there's no actual way of doing it unless someone closes a deal. But then it takes too much coordination. Like if someone wants to close a deal, like with Leviathan News in general in all shows, he has no idea if next week is going to have like 5 shows or 0 shows. So it's not possible. And I know that you guys are very used to like a structure that, okay, if that's a company and you get a paycheck, then you'll show up to work. But I don't think that that's our vision and what we're here to do. We're here to be like our X page says, like decentralized crypto media powered by Squid. And if we're really into doing it, then I actually think that we've just taken the right steps towards it. And if we just want to be another, I don't know, Bankless or another company or whatever, then what are we even doing here? Like, we can do it ourselves, you know.
But I think the point that Rex was making, DeFi Advisor, is that like, in order, like, one person can't do it alone, and it requires like a team with a strong system of like operations and workflow behind it. Like, if you want to have well-produced shows, you're probably engaging with a lot of people who, you know, may not want to like receive Squid. You know, like all of the like, there's a lot of like private things that happen, like negotiations when it comes to ad deals, or when it comes to like contractor salaries, and a lot of that isn't. I don't say like the DAO probably isn't the best way to handle a lot of those things, specifically in the sense of like the revenue model that we put up. I think DAOs are really good if like everything happens on chain. Like if you have a contract that needs to be governed on chain and like all the data's there, and there's not really anything that needs to take place outside of it. But like the further you get away from that, the harder it is to thread the needle there. And it's just, how do you essentially keep all the people who are voting inside the DAO abreast of everything that's happening behind the scenes, while at the same time having it like putting out enough public information to ensure that continued operations can happen and function well.
So on the subject of public operations, we hope that this past 30 minutes has been a nice window into like a peek behind the veil at some of the concepts we're discussing at Leviathan. You know, as always, I like to let the free market be the judge. So let's see how the live stream did. It looks like I started talking and it tanked the Squid price, but then Sam came back on at the end to talk some sense and rescue things. So thank you very much for joining and popping on here. You know, just want to give a shout out to some of the stories we wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to chat about today. The Economist has a positive take on crypto, which is not something they say every day. So thanks to OX PMM for scooping that. Our colleague Tetranode has made his only investment of 2025 into a RWA platform called Ripe Finance. There is Bitmain funneling 187 tons of Antminer parts to skirt U.S. tariffs. This is posted by JL John. And last but not least, if you are a fan of yield trading and hyper EVM, you should check out Spectra. Thank you to Absolute Unit for posting that one. Thank you everyone for joining us. This has been a kind of new like party type format for a Llama party. We hope that it was appropriately festive for your Friday. We hope you had a good time. We will encourage you to check out leviathannews.xyz, get links to everything that we're doing. And other than that, any final words that anyone wants to shout out before we close off the stream? Anyone?
Thanks a lot, guys. Nice to do it. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great weekend, everyone. Nice to see you all.
You too, guys.
All right, Squids, we'll catch you all on the